They think these kids are going to just drive themselves and park on Carter Street. I'm like, I'm that mother who I will be dropping her. I mean, it be that way, but I'm like, I'm that mother.
If everyone can settle down, we're about to start the meeting tonight. I'm going to call this August 4th Planning Commission meeting to order. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are always delighted to have some members of the audience being with us here tonight. Before we start, I'd like to request a moment of personal privilege to mention something I read earlier today about the city, and the title of this article is Alpharetta's Approach to Redevelopment, a Model for the Cities. The article was on the AJC yesterday. I'll repeat the title, Alpharetta's Approach to Redevelopment, a Model for Other Cities. The reason we spend a lot of time reviewing applications that come before the board and ultimately to City Council is to make sure that we maintain the character of the city. Our staff works very, very hard, and I know the applicants appreciate this because we've been working with them for over a year now probably. And this has been in the works for a long time. And there is also a reason that they are here. They are corporate citizens. So between us, the public, city council, the mayor, developers, our city is what it is today for that very reason. So as we go through an application like this tonight, and you hear questions from the board, it's because of that effort. And we hope that the outcome is going to be a good project. Now, we have one item on the agenda. This was deferred to this meeting tonight. We originally had 4, and some are withdrawn or deferred. But before we consider this item, we have the minutes from the last meeting. What is the desire of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of July 14, 2022.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. If this item is forwarded to City Council, it's going to be considered on August the 15th. We are recommending body. We facilitate a public process. City Council makes the final decision. So we are going to get started here. So is Ms. Cook, you're presenting? I don't see Michael tonight. We just had a workshop on this item, and we had a lot the last meeting. We don't have any time constraints, so this is an important application, so you can take it all the time you need.
Thank you. And if I could just give a brief summary of where we are and what the applicant is requesting. The applicant, Trademark Management, Ltd., is requesting a master plan amendment, rezoning, conditional use, and variances to allow for the demolition of approximately 464,000 square feet of the existing mall, including 2 anchor boxes and redevelopment with 315,700 square feet of new retail, restaurants, and creative office, 120,000 square feet of office, 150-room hotel, 904 rent units, 36 for-sale townhomes, and approximately 19 acres of open space on 83.67 acres in the North Point overlay. A master plan amendment is requested to the North Point Mall Master Plan and Modified Development Regulations. A rezoning is requested from planned shopping center to mixed use, and a conditional use is requested to allow dwelling for rent, dwelling for sale attached, and to increase the allowable density. Variances are requested to increase the building height, encroach into the Georgia 400 buffer for the MARTA BRT and multi-use trail. The property is located at 1000 North Point Parkway, 4500 North Point Place, 0 and 5000 North Point Drive, 2000 and 6000 North Point Circle, and 0 Rock Mill Road. And of course, we had recommended approval, but with 35 conditions at the July 7th Planning Commission. And during that meeting, the item was deferred to tonight's meeting. And the Planning Commission had asked the applicant for several different items to address with it, which they will address tonight. But I also want to briefly show you the site plan and go over the phasing for that site plan. Of course, this plan that's shown to you here, it shows all 3 phases. And with the first phase, which is the 320 units for sale, the 15,000 square foot food hall, 25,000 square foot co-working space, it's here in the pink and the blue, 85,200 square feet of retail, and then the 31,000 square feet of entertainment. And this may be helpful too, to kind of show that first phase, which is the yellow here. And then we also have phase 2. Phase 2 is 330 units for rent, 120,000 square feet of office. The office is located here with the associated parking deck. And 2,500 square feet of retail, a lower retail amount. Of course, this is the rental townhome product. Although it's shown as a townhome product, that product is still a rental. And then phase 3, which is shown here in the pink, 250 units for rent, 36 for-sale townhomes, 150 room hotel, here's the hotel, and then 167,000 square feet of retail. They have actually a retail box that's located here at the back. In between the July 7th and the meeting tonight, we did meet with the applicant and looked at a lot of the conditions that we had previously. If you remember, we had 35 different conditions. A lot of those were redlined. So tonight they only have one change of those 35 conditions, which I'll show you what that is. It's a change to condition E, which is for the rental. I'll tell you what how staff's reads for E. Staff was recommended for E, phase 3, for sale residential, 286 dwelling for sale attached or detached units shall be permitted in buildings no greater than 4 stories or 60 feet. No more than 10% of for sale units shall be permitted to be rented as recorded in the HOA covenants and declarations. And you can see their request, which should be a part of your packet, is for phase 3 to be a for rent residential. 250 units shall be permitted in buildings no greater than 5 stories or 75 feet, and all units shall be 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. Maximum of 60% of units shall be studios or 1 bedroom, and no more than 10% shall be 3-bedroom units. And it goes on to say a CO shall not be issued for the phase 3 for rent building until 60,000 square feet of commercial or office and site work for 36 for sale townhomes has been constructed and inspected by the city. If for sale residential units are developed in place of the for rent residential, then there is no requirement for additional development prior to CO. If construction does not commence by August 15th, 2028, residential units shall revert to for sale only. And of course that changes F, because they would change that, keep that to 36 dwelling units, because they still have the units that are shown along the stormwater park, and those are these townhome units. And that's a brief summary. If there's any questions before the applicant begins their presentation, I can certainly try to answer those.
I just have one quick question. I think I kind of forgot. It's probably in all these conditions. But what phase 2 and phase 3, what's going to be the condition of the property before it's being developed? Is that going to be all kind of grass or kind of ground cover, or kind of a green space? What is it going to look like for those 5 years or 6 years?
We would require it to be grassed, and if the applicant may have additional requirements or plans that they have, but at a minimum, for erosion control purposes, we would require that it be grassed and maintained. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Miss.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Kathy, in your presentation last month, you had shared with the commission and the folks that were here the density map for the North Point overlay. Do you have that with you this evening?
I can find that, yes.
And I'd like you to put it up, if you wouldn't mind, and just review for everyone. We've got a larger group tonight in the room, which is, I think, really great to see. And I think it's important to, while we're looking at the mall specifically, I think it's helpful to ground everybody as to how the mall is situated in regards to the overall overlay for the North Point area.
Absolutely. So just a little bit about the LCI. In 2018, this is the area that we looked at for the North Point LCI. We had originally had a study back in 2008, went back to that in 2018 to see what kind of improvements are needed in order to change the auto-oriented development that exists, of course, along North Point Parkway. What we found is the area with the proximity to the Greenway, multi-million-dollar trails that are located on the south side of North Point Parkway, as well as the planned Alpha Loop with the trail system that we just accepted $1 million to design this section that will tie in over to Encore. So we found that there was a great network of trails, and that was part of the planning for North Point. That's how we came to the conclusion, of course, that adding residential was going to be very beneficial for the North Point area, taking out some of the parking, adding residential, but of course creating a place where people want to live, making sure that we have those trail connections and we connect even across North Point Parkway. So with that, we also identified areas that were considered priority for encouraging residential redevelopment. And you can see on this map the priority areas that we had determined from the beginning are actually within the property that you're looking at as the public hearing tonight. And we're also, just to add one more point to the North Point overlay, we're currently looking at North Point Parkway. We had received $2 million to design North Point Parkway, as well as some construction funding. We've had a couple of public hearings about reducing the 6 lanes to 4 lanes as part of that possibility, putting in the 12-foot multi-use trails in order to encourage that connection from one side of the street to the other. So a lot of the future with the LCI is planned for adding that residential component.
We haven't talked about this question, so you may not know the answer, but I'm just curious, looking at the orange section and then I guess maybe the burnt orange, the locations that were added recently in designated priority areas. Do you have any a rough idea of what sort of acreage is represented in the high density priority areas outside of the mall?
I don't. We haven't really looked at that, but just I can probably figure that out quickly.
No, I think it's clear that we've got a significant amount of other areas that are designated. So, and the areas that were added most recently on the south side of Mansell looks like a significant swath of
Certainly.
area. Yeah, okay. And you spoke about the North Point streetscape, the changes and enhancements happening there. Do you have can you articulate for us all of the sort of recent enhancements and funding that the city has put forward in the North Point overlay to further promote walkability and bikeability and connections to the Greenway and Alpha Loop extension? I know that this past Monday night our council supported funding, I think, a $15 million expenditure for the Alpha Loop extension coming through North Winds, but I think since we've got such a group here, it would be helpful to get everybody grounded in what our city has done over the last number of years in regards to investments in this particular corridor.
And I did think this question may have come up tonight because of the different development projects that you have seen within the North Point overlay. So of course it started out with in 2017, and correct me if that year is wrong, Eric, for the Encore Bridge. Of course there was an investment of $14.6 million, making that walkable, just a beautiful bridge aesthetics that were changed and what was added with the multi-use trail on each side. So making that pedestrian friendly, and that was in 2017, is that correct? Then we also had the Chick-Fil-A Rebuild, and as part of the Chick-Fil-A Rebuild, there was not any impact fees given for the improvements, but you can certainly see there's a significant sidewalk improvements along North Point Parkway that they invested, as well as their side street and upgrades to the MARTA bus shelter that's in the front. We also have North Point 2 redevelopment, and that was the first development that we issued a permit with that met our North Point overlay. It's buildings that are pulled to the front at the corner of Haynesbridge and North Point. Architecture is a little bit different than you'd see in other areas, and they also have the wide sidewalks and the pedestrian areas along the front. We didn't give impact fee credits for those improvements. Then we also have the bus shelter improvements. We have northbound North Point Parkway near Encore. That was around $70,000 in funds from the North Fulton CID. And then the North Point Streetscape project. Its estimated total cost will be around $30 million, and that's for North Point Parkway construction from Haynesbridge Road to Mansell. We have received grant funding in the amount of $1.6 million for design, and of course there's a match as part of that. And then we've received $5 million towards the first section of construction. And then Encore Parkway Greenway Connection and Park. It's estimated to cost $5 million. That is at the end of Encore Parkway. That would be a connection, a 12-foot wide elevated trail that would connect over to the existing greenway. Cost is estimated at $5 million. We've received some funding from the North Fulton CID to help with the costs of the design. We also have the Rays intersection and the signal at Echo Park. That is the Providence Group's townhome project. So a lot of people complain about that intersection right there at the entrance of North Point Drive. So that's improvements to that intersection. So that is eligible for impact fee credits because that is a public street. And then we have the Alpha Link, Haynesbridge Road to Encore Parkway. That's estimated to be $7 million in construction, and we've just accepted a $1 million grant to help with the funding of the design of that trail, and that is located northwest of 400 and it will eventually tie over to Encore. And then the Alpha Loop extension funds just this past Monday night, $15.2 million total with management was approved by City Council, and that's for the main section. I think I have the overlay here, which may be helpful. I'll show you where that is. That's for the section that will run from Westside Parkway over to Old Milton Parkway. So a portion of that is located within the North Point overlay. Not all of it, but a portion of that. This section has not been bid for construction yet of the Alpha Loop. So a lot of different projects, and hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that's really, that's helpful. And I think it's important to sort of ground folks. There's, your team moves so fast, and there's lots of activity happening over, a period of time, and it's easy to sort of forget the different levels of investment that are happening. And if I remember correctly, the most recent bond project had designated several $1 million going towards the Alpha Loop and I think the Haynes Bridge.
Correct.
The bridge under Haynes
with
Bridge.
The tunnel.
Right, for the tunnel. So that's super helpful, and I think I appreciate you sharing that with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, Kathy, I did watch the video from the last meeting and looked through all the notes. But one thing that I thought was an interesting add, and I just wanted to get clarification, with the stormwater ponds, I have not seen that language before where we are assuming ownership or maintenance on the actual structures. Can you just clarify that?
Sure.
Do we have another example in Alpharetta?
We do, but we actually took the land. Well, the Thompson Street Park So when we went through the zoning, that's the stormwater park, that's part of the 1 mile alpha loop between downtown and Avalon. So we, basically, during zoning, it just said stormwater park, and then we went through all of that design after. But one of the requirements in the end, it was that the developer had to dedicate the actual land where the alpha loop is located around the water. But we will never take care of the actual pond maintenance, the inflow into the pond, the outfall. All of that is still required to be maintained by the HOA. So it'd be very similar. Yeah. Except we were actually given the land instead of just, here's your, public trail and you'll have to maintain the public trail.
So with that project, then, Public Works would have eyes on it to make sure we're getting built something that is easy for us as the city to maintain over time. So
We do. So what it took us probably, I don't want to scare anybody, but it probably took almost a year to go through that stormwater park design. But there was a lot of changes, and it was on their time frame. And the reason is, it was very collaborative. And we even brought in, the parks director, of course, because he had to make sure that it wasn't something he was going to be stuck with that couldn't be maintained. And we also had to share it, of course, with Public Works to make sure that everybody was on board.
okay, and last question, so the phasing of the stormwater retention ponds, the left one, west one's first,
Right.
the east one's second. Is that just the activation of the phases, or will that right one actually be quote unquote in use as a detention pond? Is it currently needed, or is it just that the phasing was done because it's tied to this third phase?
So this will always be, of course, the master detention, but what's so great about this pond is it wasn't built how people build those today, where they just try to save as much land till you have all of those concrete walls. So this one actually has natural pools, so a very natural area. So with that, you can actually build sections of this that are still very enjoyable without having the entire portion completed. Now, with the first phase, when you complete this phase, it will be more of a viewing area through here, but it'll still be something that's very attractive, and that's really because of the way it was built originally. It will always be their detention facility. They will always have to maintain it as their detention facility, but they will look to us if there's if the sidewalk cracks, things like that. After the maintenance period, then it would become the city's responsibility, because if we want this to be a future park, all of that to be a public park, that's something that we're going to have to maintain if they're going to allow the public there. Did that answer your question?
Let me piggyback on your question. Is this going to be a wet pond?
It is.
Okay.
I think I have a picture.
I see the picture. So there is a permanent pool.
No, it's too dark, but it actually has, you can see the water pool here. So it actually has, right now.
It's a permanent pool.
It's a
and then
permanent
there is
pool.
provision for additional runoff or drainage into it, or detention.
Yes, and it will connect with what the Providence Group is doing across the street. So they will have a public trail through that section. They're putting in sculptures as part of the trail walk. I think it's like a 15-foot praying mantis as part of the North Point overlay, but it fits with that overlay requirement. So that's also something that's going to be part of that whole system.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question. I think in our discussions during our workshop, when the applicant was talking about all the things that we kind of wanted to review this next time, I think we missed talking about the hotel. And I think in this new one that they are willing to do a full-service hotel, whereas previously we had not had a full service. but it's not defined as a upscale. That was taken out of the language. So can you address that a little bit?
This is, and I may be wrong, but I think that's what we had previously, that it's, shall be a full service, and you're correct. They wanted to change that to where it was the definition of Smith Travel. Smith Travel performs a lot of statistics and data for the hotel industry, so they wanted to change it to their definition. But this is the definition that we had, and they came back and were in agreement with it. So they're in agreement with that, so there's no changes. The only change we did make is if they were going to exchange commercial or office square footage for additional hotel rooms, we want to make sure it was just defined that still one hotel. If you think about Hotel Avalon, it's 300 rooms. So you could go over 150, but we still only want one hotel.
Avalon is 325 rooms, by the way, with a conference center.
And one building too.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right. Now it's your turn. I know you've been anxiously waiting to present to us, and we are ready.
I got some good exercise for my knees as I got up and down.
If you can state your name and
Yes.
address for the record.
Yes, Commissioners, honored to be here. I'm Terry Montesi, CEO and founder of Trademark Property Company based in Fort Worth, Texas. Pleased
Welcome
to be here
to
with you guys.
Alpharetta.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a little hot where I come from. So I'll start off by just saying thanks for letting us be here and present our thoughts and ideas for the future of the North Point Mall. I've got our EVP of Development, Jeff Johnson, my partner, wave Jeff, and our Senior Director of Development, Monica Luetta, here with us. And we also have representatives of the owner, New York Life, here with us as well. So as many of you know, we've spent the last 18 months listening, researching to try to inform what the community wants, what the market wants and will bear, that would result in a multi-generational redevelopment for Alpharetta of the North Point Mall that aligns with the city's goals for the North Point Mall and District. I'd like to thank all the staff and stakeholders and community members who attended our many community meetings over the last 18 months. I'm going to start by, we've got two things we're doing. I'm going to tell you a little about Trademark, our company, some of the work we've done, and then I'm going to go and talk about our vision for North Point. So let's see if this works. Turn it on, okay. And that would be the red button. I hear there's a delay, so I've got to get used to the, okay, so technology.
It's
Oh,
good when it
that
works.
red button. There's two red buttons. Okay, that's the arrow. All right. Yeah, so Trademark, you know, what makes these people different? Why should I care about these people? Why do we want them in our community? Well, we start different than a lot of developers, and I'm sure you've met some that show up and they've got all the answers. They know everything. I've literally seen them, a lot of our peers say, you know, just let me take care of this. I know what I'm doing, community, and you're going to like it. But we start in an opposite place. We listen. We research. We engage with the community, and you're going to hear more details about that. Because we know that not every community is the same. One size doesn't fit all. A lot of big mall developers, they want everything to look alike from place to place, and we believe the exact opposite. And we believe that retail places, like fashion and like many other things, must evolve or die. And obviously, we're here to evolve this place and not let it die. So just a little about Trademark. We're 30 years old. I founded the company 30 years ago. My dad joke is I founded it when I was 14. We've touched 47 projects in the last 30 years, invested mostly institutional capital of $4.5 billion We've done 15 successful public-private partnerships. We today operate 16 properties coast to coast, and you see we have 60 folks at our headquarters and 150 total. We're purpose-driven, and this is a great opportunity because we don't just work for the money. This is a great opportunity to put our purpose statement to be extraordinary stewards, enhance communities, and enrich lives to work. Because if we do what we're proposing to the North Point Mall property, we will be able to accomplish all these goals in spades, and it'll be really, really fun, and we know we'll be doing something great for your community. And our customers and your residents are also purpose-driven, and we've got some stats there. You know, why is having purpose? Why do we care about the brand North Point? What do we want the brand to represent in the community? It's because you see some stats here. Young folks will choose brands, will choose places, will switch brands, will pay more money based on social responsibility, environmental responsibility, purpose, et cetera. What makes us different? We're vertically integrated, and we've seen many times that amenitized mixed-use places, which is what we're proposing, drives value, drives rent premiums, and ultimately drives more value for the community. Outdoor retail, mall, and mixed use, we do it all nationwide, and we've got great relationships in the retail and leisure business, and we are focused on, we have in-house guest services. We have a lot of operational services that other companies don't have. And we have a collaborative process we'll tell you more about, planning and visioning, that we think is proprietary and very positive. So redevelopment, which is what we're doing here, is in our wheelhouse. We've completed 18 major redevelopments and renovations. All the photos you see in this are all ours. We didn't borrow them from somebody else's projects. These are all our projects across the country, all different types. We do everything from soup to nuts, as you see, and we've really got a success track record. I'll show you some case studies later of renovating successfully for both communities and owners. We are different than a lot of companies. We have an in-house. She's now a senior director of placemaking recently, so I didn't get to add the senior, but a director of placemaking in-house. What does that mean? She works with local artists everywhere we go. She works with local firms to get custom bike racks made. All of these pictures she and I work together on to do contextual public art in our places. That is a way to connect emotionally with the community. And you see localization, curation. We make our own music lists. We customize them to local properties. Like I mentioned, local public art, murals, and we're actually starting a mural program right now at North Point. We've worked nationwide. This has just got a lot of properties on there that you probably can't even read, but our people have worked coast to coast. Our leasing team, why is that important to you? We get a lot of questions. What's going to be here? What's going to be here? Well, what I can tell you, I don't know exactly who's going to be there because the market changes constantly, but what I can tell you is our approach to leasing, and you can see this is just some of the more impactful deals that we've done in our portfolio the last 12 months. We're focused on high impact leasing to optimize sales and value. We're not just focused on, making commissions and doing whatever deal we can. I mentioned earlier some of this in next level operations. We don't operate our assets the same as others. We've invested in a lot of things that other folks don't have. We hired the head of VIP experience from Neiman Marcus, and he's now our in-house VP of experience. We hired a head of guest services from Caruso in LA, and those people put together pop-ups and activations, and you're going to hear about some of those that we've been working on since we've taken over at North Point. And then we do some other things for our institutional clients that aren't as relevant to you guys. We are vertically integrated. You see everything from asset management to leasing to operations to accounting to development to design and construction, et cetera. And feel free to stop me if you guys want to, and if not, write your questions down and we'll take them whenever you're ready. We're focused on ESG, and like the E, environmental, we're very focused on being a good steward to the environment. We view the environment as a key stakeholder. We know that commercial real estate contributes to 40% of global GHG emissions, and we hire the best consultants in the country to partner with us to benchmark how we're doing. And in 2020, the leading firm that recognizes commercial real estate firms and other firms in other industries recognized us as a sector leader and number one for retail commercial real estate development. And you see some of the metrics in our portfolio below. Same with equity and inclusion and governance. So we have an in-house IDEA committee, which is DEI plus access, and we've committed and signed pledges to several things. The JUST program, which evaluates a company's diversity and identifies ways to improve. CREW, Commercial Real Estate Women's Pledge for Action. Monica is actually super involved with them, and we've signed the pledge to promote and advocate for women in commercial real estate. And we participate in ICSC's donating to their incubator program that helps place people of color in commercial real estate. Our executive team, we're focused on culture, collaboration, and fulfilling ESG goals. It's important to our people, it's important to us, it's important to our clients and partners like New York Life. We have an integrated development platform, so we have the people in-house that are going to be doing the design and construction soup to nuts, and we develop retail, multifamily, and office. And background, and now we're getting into our work. Anybody have any questions about our background before I move on? Yeah, so what have you done? Good question. So first project, this is in the Market Street Woodlands, which would be as similar, I think, a suburb in the Houston area as you could think about as Alpharetta is to Atlanta. The Woodlands is fairly similar to Houston. Okay. There we go. Yeah, so this is a 570,000-foot project. It is directly across the street from a Brookfield mall, across the street. And this project does higher sales. It is where all the best retailers want to be. So we're sort of kicking Brookfield's butt across the street. And you see the tenants. We've got a dream tenant roster in this project. These are some of the imagery. So, what do places you do look like? And you can see. And we constantly evolve, and I mentioned evolve or die. Where the Tiffany is today used to be a Z Gallery. Where the Louis Vuitton is used to be an Ann Taylor, Orbis, then an Ann Taylor loft, on and on. So more photos. So you see on the right, you see a heavy focus on great activated programmable public spaces. We are expert at that. If you know anybody who lives in the Woodlands, call them up and ask them about Market Street. So Victory Park, this is a downtown district in Dallas. When we got there, it was super distressed. You can see, look at 2015 when we took over. The NOI, or the operating income, was negative $467,000. How can that be? Because it costs more to operate it and maintain it and pay taxes than it was bringing in. And so we just changed everything. We're going to show you some before and afters here. And when we left, it was the net operating income was almost $6 million. It was almost fully occupied, and we signed 172,000 feet of new leases and LOIs in what was a very distressed district, but it was good real estate, which I'd say that applies to North Point today. So all these pictures are of the Victory District. Oh, and I mentioned custom bike racks. That's what that thing on the bottom left picture is. And that's a custom bike rack. So they're really works, they're works of public art, but everyone, and that's only about 20% more than a off-the-rack bike rack, but we're into the details, and we think details matter. So this is what it looked like, that corner looked like at Victory when we took over on top and when we finished. And actually where you see on the bottom right, you see a crane. That's now a 40-story Hines constructed multifamily tower. So more photos of what Victory looks like today. Public art, murals I mentioned. I thought this was kind of fun. Bottom left, you see what's a peace sign to us. It was also the victory sign of Winston Churchill during World War II. And so we found that piece of public art that was very contextual, and I was proud of that. That was fun. So the first lifestyle center, you've probably heard that term, which some people would refer to Avalon as one of those. Certainly a lot of Cousins projects that they did were called lifestyle centers. The first one was built in my hometown of Memphis. It's called Saddle Creek. And we took it over probably 10 years ago now. And it hadn't been evolved in a long time. And we did a really good job, demolished the part, built a new part, improved the parking. And you see some of what's happened. We've increased the value and the sales and the tenant roster. And you can see some of what that looks like today. And this is in the southeast. As I mentioned, my hometown of Memphis. So these are before and afters that you see on the left before, on the right after. So here's the first mall that we ever worked on. It was called Padre Staples Mall because it was at the intersection of Padre and Staples. A lot of creativity. So we did some research and rebranded. And I'll show you what we've done at La Palmera. So that was about a $50 million investment back in somewhere around 2009 and 2010. Macy's did expand and renovate there. Dillard's did a renovation, and we did a lot of work. And we have really served the community. Where are the before and afters? Okay, so that was it was what it looked like. I'm not responsible for making that black and white so the before and after looks better, but it is pretty dramatic. But that was a main entrance facing the freeway. We demalled that. We took the roof off, and you see we put a pop fountain and palm trees there, and we created a valet drop-off. People said people in Corpus Christi, Texas aren't going to ever use a valet. That valet has been super active, and these restaurants have done great since we did that. You see before and afters here, the top before, food court before, food court after. Anyway, so you can see people thought we were going to get run out of town for taking the carousel out. And once we did our renovation and opened, we haven't had one comment about losing the carousel. But people are fearful of losing things before they know if you're going to replace it with something better. That's my experience. So Galleria Dallas, we operate the Galleria Dallas and have been asked to come up with a new vision for Galleria Dallas, and it'll have some similarities to what we're thinking about for here. So what I want to point out. So you see the top right is the current state, and the bottom right is the plan that we proposed. You see adding a new boutique hotel, demolishing about 100,000 feet of the 3-level mall, and replacing it with public space, boutique hotel, and likely multifamily tower and possible office tower. Just show you a few more pictures of what we've got planned there. Come on. Okay. Oh, there we go. Before, after. And obviously this has not happened yet, so these are renderings, just like we'll be showing you on our project, before and after. This is the end where we demolish and add food hall, add boutique hotel. So this is some of y'all have probably been to the Galleria Dallas. It has a skating rink, but around it there's just nothing. But it's like the Galleria, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but in Milan, that's where this was inspired by. If you've been to Milan, it's got the world's biggest skylight. And so basically Gerald Hines knocked that off. And instead of having just an ice rink, there's tons of natural light. So we're going to actually move the skating rink over and create an indoor public space, an indoor green, because like right now is a great example. It's been 30 or 40 days, 100 or better. And there's supposed to be another 30 days around 100 or better. So there's 60 days. I bet a lot of people would like to have an indoor green space to bring their kids to during the summer. So another mall that we've been asked to take a look at up in New Jersey, Bridgewater Commons, just to show you. So much like here, we plan to demo a portion of it, add mix of uses. We're not as far along Okay. But you see some of the short-term improvements like we've done here, just ways to show some life, show that the ownership cares, and give people a reason to come back. Okay. So Rice Village is interesting. Rice University owned a project that was in the hands of a public REIT, Weingarten Realty at the time. And it was a good project, and they thought it was good, but they didn't know how good it could be. And as soon as we got involved, a bunch of tenants that were interested in the area said, hey, I'd like to be there, but I never really had confidence that the former operator, would do something that was relevant to my brand, that really got it. And so you kind of see some of what we did. We took the NOI and raised it. We raised rents, but even more importantly, look at those are all the new tenants we brought to the table. And it's because of what we did to the brand. You see these photographs. These are all, I think we might have some before and afters. Yeah, there you go. It was basically in a very urban, walkable district with a bunch of owners, and somebody built something that looked like a strip center. So we basically deconstructed that. We ripped a lot of the red brick off and all the things that looked the same, and we created a street-looking street feel. Top right, we took 9 parking spaces out and created a great-looking small public space. Here's before on the left, after on the right with a deconstruction, and that literally helped us attract new tenants. And that's the kind of thing that should happen here. Somebody that knows what they're doing, cares, somebody that has capital, is investing, and hey, I believe in those people, I'm interested. We've got that track record. So more photos. Waters Creek is a mixed-use project we did up in Allen, and you see right there it's multifamily. There's about somewhere around 800 multifamily units, and then 120,000 feet of office, 350,000 feet of retail. So some similarity from a density standpoint. You see photos of what we did there. More. So now I'll go to North Point, what we have planned. So I'll stop for a second. Any questions on trademark or what we've done?
I'm totally fascinated with your mall, ones you kind of going through, and I'm just purely curious.
Yeah.
You see, I think we've seen like Cumberland Mall, Perimeter Mall, even Lenox Mall, where the exterior facades or the skin of the exterior is kind of turned inside out, where you kind of have those retail kind of pieces. I saw you kind of bring that out. Can you explain why that's so important in this new design of malls, and why you recommended it in your designs? And, not necessarily in North Point, but we see it in this area. I'm just curious.
Why is it happening?
Right.
Well, a lot of tenants, like the outdoor exposure. They like how easy it is to use. You park, you walk right in. A lot of tenants feel like malls need to be turned inside out to be relevant long-term. So whatever you can do, like at La Palmera, I showed you we demalled that original entrance. I mean, it only maybe impacted 30,000 feet of a 1,000,000-foot mall. But the psyche feels different. When I drive up, I walk through an outdoor area with palm trees and a pop fountain to get in, as opposed to just walking through asphalt and opening a conventional mall entrance. So and the tenants just really believe that's important. So we're trying to give them what they want. So I'm going to run through.
Just a quick question.
Oh, sure.
On one of the data points earlier, it struck me because I had heard a couple other data points, and this one was different, but to make sure I got it right, that 11 out of your 17 mixed-use projects include multifamily.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And what percentage of the ones we're doing today have multifamily? 100%. So that's historically.
And what's the count on those today that are planned or in progress?
Yeah, we have 4 or 5 real deals we're working on.
Okay. Thank you.
What's the why behind that?
The why, multifamily? So we have a housing crisis in this country, and because of that, the demand for multifamily is significant, and therefore multifamily, we don't need any new retail square footage of consequence. I'm doing more retail demolition than I am constructing new space right now, but doing some of both. But the world needs places to live. And because an office is sort of suffering a little bit, so the capital markets aren't really investing much in office. Small office here and there, creative office here and there, but not a lot of capital. So the capital's going to multifamily and industrial. And so multifamily is the enabler for mixed-use projects. Were it not for multifamily, mixed-use projects wouldn't get built.
And just
Translate that, you just put that in your computer, and that's a part of why the multifamily is on our plan. But there are a lot of other good reasons as well.
If you don't mind, go downstream a little bit on
Yeah.
that, because I know you're up there in the financial construct, but take that down into the impact of the property and the experience of why multifamily is key,
Yeah.
why you want multifamily
Oh, yeah.
in a retail experience.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's several reasons. One I always point out is like security. It's eyeballs. It's eyeballs all day, eyeballs on the weekend, eyeballs in the evening. And so if I'm a woman walking from my car to the garage or whatever it is, I feel safer, right? It's also, it's business, right? So if we have 901.5, what is that, 1,350? We have 1,350 people living in this district, whereas you'll hear later, there's not near as many people in this district compared to the size of the amount of retail, et cetera. The district, North Point District's light on people, and that's not great for, the retail that's going to be that we put at North Point. If we have 1,350 people there, that's people that are walking to the restaurants. That's people that are walking to the office buildings, and that's saving parking. That's less pollution. That's why cities like having density, right? And it's life. It's vibrancy, people coming and going, and particularly if you have the kind of public spaces that I'm going to show you, that people are just going to want to come hang here, and they're going to want to come visit their friends here because they're going to park in their garage, and they're just going to want to walk and hang out here.
Just a quick question to drill a little deeper into that. And if you're going to hit on this in your deck, we can wait, but if not, you can just speak to it. Can you paint a picture for us on, do you have a persona of the people or the demographics of the people that may be moving into the multifamily? I mean, I think there's a legacy belief some of us may have that, it's highly transitory people, maybe like me when I got out of Auburn and I lived in an apartment for 6 months because I couldn't afford a house, and then I moved to another apartment for 6 months, and then I saved up money for a house. Yeah. But is it, who can you paint a picture who will be...
Well, I actually have a demographic. I can go forward to that, but if you
don't have to go.
Waiting, I'll hit on it.
I'll ask more questions when you get to that. But and I think also vis-a-vis the amenities that we're talking about and the price point that was shared with us, where does that relate to the demographic for the area?
Yeah, so I'm going to
young professionals, old professionals, married families, single people.
I've got that in detail. If you might just keep, I'm happy to go now, but if you want to just wait.
We can wait.
I promise it's in here. So this is kind of the story. North Point's been a beloved shopping hub for generations, and we did 1,370 surveys. I think I'm about to present that number too, and we got a lot of respondents, so people care. So we got a lot of information for generations, but it's become distressed in its current state. It is distressed in its current state. So we want to build on that foundation. We've got people that care about the place, and not all the bones are bad. It's got some good bones that we can use, and so we want to upgrade the best parts of it. We want to, of the indoor experience. We're going to take down a good bit of it as well, so we can create a vibrant 365, 24/7 live, work, play, mixed-use neighborhood that is welcoming to all. And so part of the demographic, the psyche, if you just said, who are going to be the visitors here, we are not trying to be super exclusive. We're trying to be a little more welcoming to more people, a little more casual, less intimidating for some. Okay, come on. There we go. The team. just very quickly. So we have a best-in-class team of architects, designers, engineers, consultants. You look at on the left side is the designers, architecture, landscape. 4 of those are Atlanta folks, and I see one from Baltimore, one from San Francisco, one from Dallas. And a number of them worked on Avalon and a lot of other projects you've heard about. So stakeholder engagement. So 18 months or so ago, we met with city and staff, and we immediately did a consumer engagement survey that I mentioned with 1,370 respondents. And then we hosted a design charrette I'll tell you a little more about. But our charrette process is very unique to Trademark. We invite, Kathy was there, and a number of the city council came, et cetera. We invite, that was 3 planning firms or maybe 4 planning firms to this one. And a lot of, landscape designers, placemakers, parking consultants, et cetera, civil engineers, structural engineers. I mean, we're digging in, and we take 2.5 days to plan and then critique, and then plan more and critique more, and get city and stakeholder input, on the fly as we're doing it. And we came out of it with a plan very close to this one. So oftentimes we can just close to nail it. It wasn't finished, but we got close. So you see the other meetings we've had throughout, and there's this one great quote. It was wonderful 20 years ago, but no longer does it meet shoppers' preferences in terms of appearance, infrastructure, offerings, and it desperately needs to be reimagined as a connected, sustainable, and attractive, outdoor-focused, live, work, play community with far less concrete parking. To which I say, amen. Precisely. That person, one of our respondents, nailed it. So if you want to know what we're trying to do, it's that. Some other things we heard. More green space. No kidding. We want a park. A larger park than Avalon. We want a unique, updated look and experience. It needs redevelopment. These are all quotes. I'm just reading some. We want entertainment, fun, more social activity and events. And I'd say one thing that we'll be different than some of the others. I don't have to use their names. You know them. But we'll be a little more entertainment, leisure focus, fun focus, F&B focus, outdoor seating focus, and a little less about sort of formal and taking your money. Next. Yes, I already kind of mentioned the design charrette, and there's some photographs. You may recognize some folks there. We all had to wear masks at the time. It was kind of miserable, 2.5 days in a room like that, trying to talk on a microphone like this. But we got through it. So, and we always start with what are some places that you've been that you think might be inspirations? And so these are some of those, and community-driven, curated, active, eclectic, and a big part of it, and COVID has something to do with this. A big part of it is we want it to be focused around public spaces and outdoors. We want it to be community-centric, outward-facing. And I'd say that's something we want to be we want to own that a little bit. Outdoor, it's real, like the community feels like they own this place, and it's not an intimidating place because you don't have to come here and spend tons of money to have fun. Although we'll take it if you do. So I've mentioned we've started the evolution with some near-term improvements. We call them, these are light touches, nothing like the permanent renovation, but you see some of what we've done. You've probably been there, seen some of it. New logo, new rebrand, and we've done a lot of events with local partners, some of which are here, whom are here tonight. We've done partnerships with the Georgia Aquarium, Fur Kids, the Drake House, Atlanta Ballet, the King Center, and Alpha Arts Guild, as well as national partners like Miss America, Lego Masters, and the Black Fashion Movement. And you see Alfie, our trolley, down on the bottom right, that's been a big hit. And what are we working on now? The next, it's pushing $2 million. I think it's $1.7 million, $1.8 million of improvements. Some lighting, signage. We mentioned to you, we're already improving the signage, but that's a temporary thing. Garage, clean, repaint, add new trash receptacles, put murals and graphics in the garage, because that's the, people drive in the garage, and in our new plan, you're going to see garages are so important. That's their first impression. A lot of people let garages get dirty, dark, and nasty. We want them to be fun and have murals and great fun signage with inspirational quotes, et cetera, et cetera. We're working on more FF&E, mural program I mentioned earlier, restroom refresh, et cetera. What's our vision? So you know the site as it is today. And per the city council and staff suggestion, the rezoning has expanded to 83 acres to create a comprehensive long-term master plan. The good news is this is one of the few malls in the country where one owner, New York Life, controls a bunch of contiguous land, and the anchors have less control. So often, you know, I'll be asked to take a look at something, and they'll own 15 acres of 100, and all the anchors own everything around them, and they just own the little stuff in the middle. Guess how hard it is to develop in that scenario. You got to get everybody's approval. They all have their hand out, et cetera. Yeah, so as you know, a portion will be demolished. Somewhere right around half of the shop space, half of the non-anchor space will be demolished. And about, you know, half of the shop space and more than half of the anchor space and parking will be saved. We'll be right-sizing the retail, demoing about 464,000 feet of total space, retail space. Right-sizing the retail, leaving some interior retail space. And we talked a lot about what's enough. If you took too much away, there wouldn't be enough reason to go inside. So we think we're leaving about the right amount. And then we're building the village core first, which, well, I'll show you that in a minute. The walkable small buildings in the middle. And we're leaving about 180,000 feet of shop space in addition to the anchors. You know, what are we asking for? What are the potential mix of uses over the next 6, 7, 8 years total? So we'll be doing this phased. You see, y'all can read, 874,000 feet of renovated mall space, including all the anchors. 315,000 feet of new space, creative office, retail, restaurant, including one large anchor on kind of Plan South, we'll talk about in a minute. 120,000 foot office building, 150 key hotel, 19 acres of civic and amenity space, 36 for sale townhomes, and 900 luxury for rent residential units. So the plan. Any question? Is somebody going to ask a question? So the plan, I think y'all have seen this a number of times. You know, I'm really excited. This was not the easiest place to come up with a great plan, but I really do think we came up with one that was super responsive to both the market and to the respondents in our survey and to what the community wants, and what will be complementary to the place we're standing in today, mixed use, and then Avalon. Because we don't want to just build another one. Hey, Avalon was successful, let's go build another one. So we want it to be something different. This is much more organic. You can see the street grid is more organic. The village core, which is the orange buildings in the middle, much more organic. Lots of walkable green space, lots of different opportunities for great outdoor seating, safe places for kids to run around. And then we've got our large event plaza that's about twice as big as the one in Avalon, which is a big emphasis of city staff, council, and the respondents to our survey. This would be about a $500 million capital investment if it was built. That's in today dollars. And, you know, we've got opportunities to add office, hotel, and residential to create a real viable 24/7 neighborhood that is big enough and should be active enough to where each use is of meaningful support. If you didn't invite the rest of the community in, it wouldn't work, but it's sort of a meaningful anchor within walking distance, which is super important to a successful mixed-use place in our experience. And one thing we can accommodate is we can do some larger entertainment, home furnishings type users, and like Avalon doesn't have the space. They can't. They could lease a lot more if they did, but they don't. And I know a lot of retailers that would like to be there and can't get in, or they're going to be running some retailers off there that we might be happy to have. That's the reality. And the way we're building it, the street grid and the phasing, we've already talked to contractors about how do you stage it, and our construction people. This allows you to do phase one, and then it operates well, and then you do phase two. The other thing is that of note, so we had a traffic study done. The full, if the mall was full, it would use 5% more traffic than this plan when it's full. So it's not the traffic impact is not, it's not a negative traffic impact, it's a positive. That's per the engineer's traffic study. Next. So we've designed a walkable village concept with sustainable green spaces and new, really interesting casual mixed-use buildings and public space amenities spread throughout. There won't just be, here's our one space. We'll have a bunch of small, interesting, amenitized public spaces, plus we'll have the big one that we mentioned. So this is going to be real, serious quality architecture. Focus on the outdoors. Focus on outdoor seating. Focus on shaded seating. But creating a casual, family-friendly, approachable place that is complementary to existing Alpharetta options. Some of the strategies for redevelopment, I mentioned right-size the mall, upgrade the indoor experience at the mall, and introduce an amenitized, walkable, live, work, play neighborhood. And all the uses are needed to be there in scale to support other uses. You see sometimes where communities will make a multifamily developer build 5,000 feet of retail on the ground floor of a multifamily project that's built at a site that is not a retail site. So they'll build mixed use, but there's not enough retail. There's not enough retail to matter, and it's not even a retail location. So we have to be responsive to the market, or this project won't be sustainable long term. And we want to have a variety of green spaces and different amenities and architectural styles. So the interior, I'll just show you some shots. You won't recognize it. We're doing a lot of things differently in the new proposed interiors. And we have these, if you want to see more shots, bigger, blown up. I noticed the bottom left one was on the screen, and when it's in that big, when it's on the whole screen, it's pretty impactful. So it's going to be interesting, fresh, new, evolved, relevant, but casual, not trying to be stuffy, not trying to be unapproachable. Yeah, indoor and outdoor are both important. We were talking earlier about the weather. There's several months a year in Atlanta or Fort Worth where I live where, it's not terrible to be in the air conditioning. So we kind of like the fact that we're real versatile. And you can come here and you might walk around outside for a few minutes and then you get hot and you can go inside and enjoy yourself. And the project has good bones, but you won't recognize the new North Point, but we'll be using a lot of the structure. So this area is called the Station. I didn't name it. I don't really love that name, but this is the existing mall entrance and the green space. And the exterior facades and the interior mall spaces will all be completely new. Like you certainly don't recognize that, right? On the top left, that's the existing mall, but it doesn't look anything like it does today. On the right, that was a portion of the existing mall retrofitted where we plan to put entertainment. I mentioned this outdoor gathering space will be one of the largest in North Fulton and about almost double that of Avalon. And that was we heard that over and over. It'll accommodate up to 2,500 concert goers or host large festivals, farmers markets, et cetera. And then plus we have all these small outdoor rooms around the village that'll be activated by amenities and adjacent patios. And our goal is for our public realm, so the green space, the spaces between the buildings, our public realm to be an anchor. So where I was at our Woodlands project, Market Street, the first one I showed you tonight. I'll never forget, I was there at the grand opening of our Phase 2, and I'm in line getting some ice cream with my daughter, and this guy, a real nice guy, just introduces himself. Hey, I'm Joe Bob, and hey, I'm Terry. You know, where are you from, Terry? I said, well, I'm from Fort Worth. I'm the developer. He's like, oh, I got to tell you, last Saturday, I asked my 3 kids, what do they want to do today? Let's go to a park. They said, yeah, let's go to a park. He says, which park do you want to go to? Market Street, our public space in the middle of Market Street. So that's, you know, that was a pretty proud moment. So that's how we want people to think about, I just want to go there because I know I'm welcome there and I know it'll be fun to be there, and then I'll decide what to do. So we believe in public spaces as anchors. We've already kind of talked about the 3 districts, the existing mall, the neighborhood, which is the residential, and the village, and we would start with the village and Phase 1 of the neighborhood right above it, as we talked about earlier. And then the station, that's the biggest, obviously, because there was an existing mall and the public green. And this kind of gives you an idea if there was a concert or whatever, how it might look and feel. And it's really essential. It grounds you. And it's a transition between the walkable small buildings in the village and the larger project. And it creates the there, day one. So this is obviously Phase 1. Can't do Phase 1 without this. It's a big deal. And on it, we would have co-working, food hall, restaurants, and entertainment uses. And we have a number of entertainment uses interested. More images of the different edges and angles of the large green space next to the mall, the new mall entrance. So the village. So think this is a fun, social, emphasis on outdoor place. It replaces the demolished portion of the mall. So obviously you won't recognize, this is not your kids or your mom's North Point. The design will run old and new together, and the pedestrian experience will be extraordinary with patios, soft seating, covered outdoor spaces, and great fun amenities. And, you know, people say, well, how are you going to lease it? Are you just going to be competing with Avalon? And I say, you know, the thing about this is it's going to be different. There is some pent-up demand for leasing in Alpharetta, but tenants want to be, most new tenants prefer a walkable outdoor environment. There's still plenty of tenants that like malls, but most of the new tenants, like digitally native folks, want outdoors. So this really enhances our ability to lease the North Point district. So if you're not a mall tenant, we've still got a really cool place for you. Just some more images of the buildings and the spaces between the buildings in the village core. As you see, very organic, not formal, fun, and we think this will be really different and received very well. So the neighborhood, the residential neighborhood, connected, you know, to the social village. It'll have retail below a portion of it, so it's definitely connected. And they'll enjoy the connectivity to Alpha Loop and the new sidewalks and trails and bike lanes being put in. And it brought to life with retail, with storefronts, and with outdoor seating. We're requesting 900 residential units in 3 phases over the 83 acres. As you guys heard earlier, that is a really low density compared to most small redevelopments in the country. It's a big site, and it can become it could accommodate much more residential. And it can become a new neighborhood that can easily support, and it can easily support this amount of residential, but it will also support the existing mall and the new retail and the office. And the North Point area hasn't seen the residential population growth of other districts like this one and the Avalon area, et cetera. And it needs people living here to support that viable mixed-use ecosystem. So, can I call you Todd or Mr. Stratton? Todd? Renter demographics.
Whatever you like.
Okay. Renter demographics. So our research shows these will be young professionals, empty nesters, and to be clear, this is a lot of what's at Avalon. Empty nesters, maturing singles, and couples that no longer have children. Like I said, similar to the renters at Avalon. more images of the neighborhood. And what you see here, we're not designing what people refer to, and I don't like it because, but I didn't invent these places. They call them Texas wrap style buildings, and they're just big monolithic things. You'll see 300 feet long, and every detail looks the same, wrapped around a garage as cheap as possible. Well, that's not what you see here. This is a great looking neighborhood, and we're committed to every of the three phases. They all look different. They will all have a lot of variety in height and scale and architecture and color and finish. So I'm now going to pause, let you ask me any questions you want, and then I'm going to pass it on to my partner, Jeff. So thanks for your attention. I did it. I said I wouldn't go longer than an hour. That was right at an hour. So
All right.
Thanks for your
You
attention.
did well. Thank you. Any questions so far?
not yet. Well, I don't know if that's good or bad, but
There
thanks
may
for your
be some
attention.
later. Let's
And I'll
keep
be
on
here.
processing.
Let me have one. I'm available.
Hi there, Jeff Johnson, Trademark Property Company, Fort Worth, Texas. Again, thank you for allowing us to be in front of you today. And I'm just going to hit on a couple of points, and I think then we'll be, ready to hopefully answer some questions and help dig in further where you all would like. So, actually, Kathy pulled up the North Point LCI earlier. And just, for reference, we really feel like the intent of the North Point LCI as well as the 2040 comprehensive plan, we've really paid attention to that in our planning, in our design. And it goes without saying, Terry mentioned it, I think it was discussed earlier, the light density that is in the North Point area is, it's a concern in some respects because we need that, this district needs more density. It needs more population for, all of the mix of uses, not only on our proposed project, but in the entire area. So certainly respect and feel like the vision of LCI is where we're trying to take North Point. And we really do see it as a catalyst for change in this district. As investment and more people are coming to live in North Point, I really feel like it's going to help drive the goals and vision and continue what the community envisions here long-term within the LCI. And I will just note, just talking about population density, we did take a step back and take a look at Avalon, Perimeter Mall, and Halcyon. And so we first looked at North Point and said, how many people live within a 1 mile radius and how much retail space is there? And we found that there's about 1,000 square feet of retail space per one person. And just as a quick analog and comparison, we looked at Perimeter, Avalon, and Halcyon. And it's about 200 square feet of retail per person. So that really is telling us a couple of things. Too much retail, within a mile of North Point, and there's not enough people. And our plan really is, go on a retail diet, if you will, and add density. And we really feel like that's part of the big success of creating a great mixed-use place, as we've discussed earlier. The other opportunity we think we have here is really taking advantage of great connectivity, not only to the Alpha Loop in the Big Creek Greenway, but also we've spent time with MARTA as they're looking at their long-term plans that we're all familiar with, and have really come up with a plan that takes into account the future rapid transit station that MARTA's proposing. So we think that that's also a great opportunity to have more density here, because there's a lot of different ways for people to get here, whether it's on bike and it's leisure, or you're going to work that way, or you're going to take public transportation to go down into the city for a game or something like that. So just wanted to note some of the details, and obviously Kathy was talking about some of the large investments the community is making in infrastructure to help make North Point and the community more walkable and more connected. We really want to leverage that investment and have a plan that's going to meet the needs of this community today, but also in the future, and leverage the great investment that the community is making today. And I believe I've got one more item. So the Eco District. We studied that a lot and want to make sure that we're hitting our Eco District points, not just overall, and just said, hey, we got there. In each phase of our project, so as we roll out phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, we're achieving our points in each one. We're not trying to say, we're going to go get, if you will, 20 over here, but we're only doing 3, if you will, in another phase. And we feel like that's more of a balance of the intent, is because we want to make sure that we've got amenities where they provide true value. We don't want to go create public spaces and get points somewhere where the community is not going to use it. So we think it's important to be thoughtful in how we achieve the points and where they're located in an incremental basis. And I believe with that, that concludes our presentation, and just open it up for questions or thoughts or comments.
Thank you for your presentation, and very informative, much more clear than the first meeting, and we appreciate the work that you have put into this presentation. I know the board will have questions as we consider this application, but we'll have plenty of time for that. But are there any questions for the applicants at this time?
It's a general question. When I look at the redo here, I know that when you go around the mall, been there many times, it was just clear cut essentially from the very beginning. And now a lot of things are being replaced, and I know there's going to be trees on the, on the streetscape, so to speak, and the stormwater part. What about what about making it, when you were talking about the eco district, what about the reforestation, or trying to bring some of those trees back? And
Yeah.
you have the interior green space. What about on the outside? What's your vision for that?
And thank you. Just bear with me. I was just getting to a plan so we could speak over that. So absolutely, both trees, ground cover, plantings is integral to our plan. Everything from, you're talking a little bit about the perimeter. We'll certainly have street trees, on each street. I think we've got typical sections up there that show that profile, if you will. And then, clearly, we within the event plaza, et cetera, will have large trees that'll be, set with a crane kind of thing, because we don't want this to feel like, oh, this is a brand new place, and we've got all these 1-inch caliper trees. Yeah, that's right, exactly. And through the village as well, that was probably a good, you can see the intent, and what we'll do is it's planting larger trees. It's to create the sense of place, not only with the buildings, but with the landscape, the hardscape, et cetera.
Just to mention one thing, you are being recorded, so if you want to say something, you can approach that microphone or this one so she can pick it up. All right?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. I'd love to echo your comments of thank you very much for a much better presentation today. I know it was an hour long, but it was really nice to kind of go through the visualization of it, the thought process, and everything you were talking about. I got like 3 or 4 questions just to ask, and that's it, because I know we've spent a lot of time already on this. Going back to the 2 neighborhoods, kind of the construct of the 2 neighborhood zones that you currently have, and kind of again, those we're kind of looking at, is that retail all the way around the base, around the streetscape? Is that fully intended there with the multifamily on top? Because I saw a couple different images where multifamily goes right to the sidewalk, and I think we have some of that here in Alpharetta. We were looking at, especially here, really close to where we sit today. And then I saw other stuff where you had activity zones, activation zones in the retail base. So I just wanted to understand What is that? Just confirm that for me.
Sure. So you can see on the site plan, looking at the neighborhood and specifically the ones to plan north. So in the first phase, you can see the orange, if you will, in the plan. That's all retail under it's under the base, it is the base of the multifamily. As you move to phase two, we continue to have retail. That's actually where we'll have our grocery operator in the base of phase two. So we, along what we consider to be retail streets, that will all be retail.
Thank you. And I love it, when you have this many stakeholders around the table, I always kind of say that tension's a good thing. Tension is the creator of a better product at the end of the day. So there's always some movement back and forth and something like that. I mean, through your whole team, designers telling architects to kind of have a different visualization, they kind of spec it out, all these kind of pieces, including ourselves, from the community and kind of saying, well, we're part of the community and this is what we had. And we know Alpharetta kind of really well, so we get into these kind of pieces, there's always a little tension, right?
Sure.
And then there's trust, and that trust builds on ultimately a better product as you kind of go through this. So I want to understand a little bit more about trademark, if you don't mind, and your relationship kind of in this, and who's the developer, who's the owner as we go through maybe some of these phases, just for a little bit more visibility and understanding into that, so we can understand your role a little bit better and understand maybe where those tension points are.
Sure.
So an idea is, are you going to be the owner or the builder of the multifamily within the neighborhoods? What your kind of whole team there is? I know New York Life's in this. Will they continue with their long-term plan? Will there be different ownerships in these different kind of phases as you go through? I don't think we ever brought that up before. I just kind of want to understand maybe everyone's perspective so we can understand that better.
You bet. So I'll kind of set it at a high level first. So New York Life is the owner of North Point Mall. To date, we've been hired to be the operator, manager, as well as I'll call it the redeveloper of North Point. And so that is our relationship today with New York Life. That will continue to evolve as we start to go vertical. And candidly, those are discussions that we'll be continuing to have with New York Life to really better answer your question of who's the team and who am I dealing with 2 years from now. It will remain trademark and it will remain New York Life.
Is it your intent to be an owner of part of this property in the future?
It is.
Through the multifamily, those pieces?
Absolutely.
Once again, if you don't mind, you come on up here if you want. You can sit right there if anything kind of comes up. We just want to make sure we capture all your comments. So visibility is a good thing. Just kind of understand what that long-range plan is that we're all kind of, like I said, all stakeholders around the table. As we understand that, it's going to kind of get right to it, right? We have one kind of crux here, one kind of, we're on two different sides, right? So everything I think that was brought from your presentation was really well put together, and the understanding of it, especially when we're talking about the livable part on this property. As you get more people, more traffic, more walkability, it becomes safer, the experience becomes better, the vibrancies there, all those things that we capture in that experience, that's a better experience. The idea is we also expand that a little bit forward, maybe in the optics or perspective, maybe from what we're hearing from the community a little bit more, is we want that living to be a little bit more shared and shared between a rental and an ownership kind of process, that everybody has opportunities right within there to kind of experience those same kind of things. And there might be different kind of viewpoints. You were talking about different demographics, it's kind of like different age groups, different kind of points, whether they're coming in or long-term ownership, and then you have transient. All those kind of work together. The design we're kind of seeing, and you started off with something that's kind of saying, well, capital markets are really kind of driving this multifamily to be a part of these kind of things, where our vision is not really necessarily in the financial construct. Ours is more the experience and what the community wants to be a part of that. That's where I'm getting down to a little bit. Now we're talking about 250 units that you want as a multifamily rental, where we want that to be for sale. Just that's what's in the recommendations. That's our crux, right? We're talking about a $500,000 project. We're talking about, I don't know, $100,000 a unit to build, $225 million to build, 250 units. It's not a large percentage in there as we kind of start talking about the overall dynamics of the property. Why didn't you challenge your designers a little bit more to incorporate more of a for sale instead of kind of the thought process you're talking about is with the capital markets kind of driving this decision, were there any challenges to have a design that we have today? Because I think the one thing we have earmarked here in the 286 that we kind of have as maybe livable and ownership on the property is the one thing we're not talking about is any time on that, right? And that's because you don't have it designed out today. We don't really get to kind of see where it is. And you kind of have that ideas in the future. You could build into this and then build trust with the community and understanding different perspectives and tension points as well. You can always come back in the future. You know, you can always kind of take a look at this and build through it. Why is it a point today that is so important to you?
You bet. And I guess I'll start by answering one of your first questions in that. No, and I appreciate that you're giving perspective, right? Because that's kind of what we're talking about. So early on in our planning and really in our research is we started to better understand the community and understand the various housing product types that are in Alpharetta. And so, if you will, what's working, what isn't. We clearly saw the detached and freestanding townhome projects, not dissimilar to what's just right behind City Hall, as sort of a great example of what we would like the for sale product to be. And as we looked at other product types of for sale, looking at some stacked condo projects, getting feedback from some of those developers, and understanding that from a cost to build it to sort of to the sale side, that model really is not working in the community as well as maybe some developers had thought it might. And so that steered us away from higher density for sale product. And we still feel pretty strongly that will be the case for a while. When it comes to pushing our planners and really getting them to look at different product types, we did. And interestingly, and this is not about the product type for a second, it's about the density, because we certainly had some great local planners and multifamily folks. We also had, as Terry mentioned, a couple of firms from the coasts, because we think that brings texture, right, to our plan. In their first iterations, they'd have 1,500 units, 1,200 units on our early plans at the Charette. And we just said, we've listened to the community already. We understand that 900 is maybe a bit of a stretch, or we're going to have a discussion about it as we continue to get to know each other. And ultimately, we continued to listen to the community and felt like 900 is in a way, I'll call it a meet in the middle. I understand perspective and respect that. We really felt like the LCI and the lack of density in the North Point area, that this project, it really it's going to activate this place 24/7. It's getting population started in North Point, which today that's not proved up, if you will. And for other projects, I think this will just help be that catalyst for conversion. And again, I already mentioned the for sale product type, I guess is a way to look at it. We would love to say that high density condominiums would work here. We just we don't see that in what I call it the near term future, because we all want to feel like this project starts with a council approval at some point, if you will, and within 6 years we could be finishing starting our third phase of residential. So some of that is also about getting a complete project. I guess it was a long-winded way of
Jeff,
answering that.
And not to mention, yes, so you asked, did you challenge your planners? I'd love to show you the 150 plans we've done. No kidding. This is not like cranking it out, let me assure you. The sausage making is, arduous. But so that site is somewhere around 3 acres, that's phase 3. And the density that the market will bear, the high end of the density, we were told 9 to 16 units Let's use 16 on 3 acres and round it up. That's 50 units versus 250. That's the difference. And so that's also 200 less people. No, pardon me, that's 200 less units, 300 less people living there. And in a district that already is way light on people. So we did look at that, and there's just, when you go research, now if mid-rise condos, if the pricing worked for that in this market, we could get for sale density. It's just not in suburban Atlanta anywhere. It's certainly not in Alpharetta. And so that's we do have market reality we have to deal with. And our early plans, Kathy and her team, the early plans, the mayor and council saw 1,500 units, 1,800 units, 1,200 units at the Charette. Boy, we're probably not going to get that done. So we have already been working down, just so you'll know. It's not like we're coming in at 900, hoping we get 500, meet in the middle. We've been worked down, and originally it was no for sale. I remember the mayor saying, we need some for sale. And other council would stop by, and Kathy's like, we need some for sale. So this has been a big push and pull already. That's where we are, and we did study it.
So I deeply appreciate this context because it kind of gives us greater visibility and understanding the other side, right? So they're going back to that tension. There's always kind of tension, but it's good tension. So I'm
grateful for you hitting it head on and not, wasting everybody's time. Let's talk about the key issue.
Absolutely. Let's get it out there. So let me go into broader context on that. If you don't, just give me two more minutes. That's it. And I just want to, because I really do want to kind of say, the core here is the mall, and I applaud you for everything inside the mall, because that's really. The sensitivity around this whole project is, because they say save the mall, all these kind of things, see it, renovate. Everyone wants to go here. I'll be honest with you, I live here. I want to go here. I want to experience these things. Everyone up here at the DS wants to do this. So that's part of it. And we're really kind of work out, now it's before, like that's the core. That's the really going to support you. I thought it was excellent, Commissioner Richards, talking about all the investment around the years. We're talking about $75 million this city or this community is investing in this zone, right? Significance. Then we got to have some tax abatements, things like that coming to you. Those are significant investments we're making as a community into this. That's why we want to have, obviously, a stakeholder kind of have these discussions and long-range plan. So I just want to understand that halo is what we're talking about, is kind of going into it, that ownership. I just want to understand your perspective. So at some point we kind of get there, you sell off, you get pad ready, you come in at a later date, you buy the pad from North Life, then New York Life, then you guys go ahead and go vertical there. You start adding in those pieces. That's your long-range plan. We go up a little
or joint venturing with them, I think, is much more likely. They hadn't committed. We're not committed,
but it's positioned as an off-ramp, if you want. And that's kind of where I'm getting to. A little bit higher and looking down the property. That's where we go deeper into long range. It's knowing all this other side of the property, right? We're kind of looking at the northern half of the property, and we kind of look at the southern half, and this is where we kind of get into this livable kind of aspects. How can we create more? And I know all the iterations, we're kind of like, well, different. Why don't you just build a tower, build a condo tower, build a tower multifamily like you have there? And I know, talking about that might be a little bit easier in height variances versus it might be something like this. This is the challenge that we're kind of going through. But I think all of us were just that 900 concentration right off the bat, right out of the gate, is extremely concerning. Obviously, the community is really concerned about it. We're a reflection of that community. So that's why I just kind of want to bring. And I enjoyed your perspective there, but a little bit of the tension, the challenge here is, well, I don't know what the decision's going to be, and how do we get there? How do we not get there?
Yeah, and I would say one thing to think about. The tension also is that this is a very unique situation with how few people live around this. I always have said it 100 times in conversations with clients, partners. Great retail has a great neighborhood, right, that it's a part of. And North Point Mall does not. Yep. And so we need as much density. You could put 2,000 units on here if you tried. Get rid of the office and you get rid of the retail. But no, that's not what we're doing. We're trying to come up with a balanced plan that is a mixed-use plan that has enough of each use to where they can actually support one another. And that's a big deal. You guys want this to work. You want the mall to turn around. You want our new retail to work long term. Having residential customers right there is a huge part of it, because we don't have a neighborhood.
So I'd like to challenge you, because I'm just
Okay,
going to stop here.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Just-
Sorry.
Can I interrupt?
I'm so sorry. Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, because I want to add to what you're saying, is that help me understand, I get what you're saying, but you also have 250 townhomes for rent, right?
No. No, we have like 30,
No, these are now,
no.
There's a section of for rent that are built as townhomes.
Yes,
That's
36 of them?
Yes. 24. Yeah,
Sorry, 24 of them, not 250.
oh, these are 24 and then 36?
yes,
Yes.
correct. And the
Okay,
24
so, but you do have 24 that could be for sale.
I guess theoretically, yeah, that's
Okay.
not the way we're looking at today.
Yeah.
But someone mentioned earlier, I think it was Mr. Brady, or I can't remember who it was, sorry, that a variety of housing. That's been a big conversation, and if you look, we could show you, so we have rental townhomes of a certain size, we have sale townhomes of a certain size, we have different types, different design multifamily projects. You'll notice our projects they're not all square Texas wraps. They're different types and they're different heights, and so we see different types of people living in some with children, some not. So, but we don't have nearly that many.
So I'm going to make one comment, and I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
That would be fair
No.
to my other commissioners. I
Go
don't think
on.
I'm hogging the time, but I do challenge you, and I challenge you a little bit as what you said. You're listening to other developers about what's working, and then you're coming here and saying, oh, well, this is what's going to work. Maybe listen to the community. What we're telling you also is what works in Alpharetta. That's all I challenge you at.
Oh, I hear you, but say to get 250 for sale units on that 3 acres, we'd have to be doing towers. And the prices don't support it. You can't find an analog. We're not going to be able to do it. One of the key things here is it's a balancing act, right? Balancing the tension. But we're trying to propose something that we think will actually get done. Because we can go through all this, and if it doesn't get done, it doesn't do any of us any good. So that's what we're trying to propose. Balance the community feedback and the market realities. And the market realities are not, we can't even do 4-level, like the stacked condos, the market. So you sure can't do 5 or 8 or 12 concrete. Those numbers don't work because the construction costs almost double. People aren't paying it in suburbs. Almost anywhere in the country, in suburbs, they're not paying it.
And if I could, just one comment on just density, right? And it's the number, right? We understand your perspective and been listening. When I think about the LCI, the North Point LCI, it's, Kathy, is it like 850 acres, something like that? This is 10% of, right, the acreage. And so, the acreage is fairly big in the LCI, and we're a pretty good piece of it. And so I think that because of the sheer scale of this is 83 acres, and I understand other thoughts on the resi, but this is a larger project, and that's commensurate with the ask for 900 as well, and being a true catalyst project.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I think you both hit on, I think the word of the evening is balance. And that is, I have a unique perspective here because I had the opportunity as a councilwoman to work with Trademark and New York Life while I was serving on council. And as the liaison to community development, I spent a fair amount of time with Jeff and your team and Alan and his team. And what you're hearing tonight is very similar to what I shared with you, 18 months ago, in regards to the balance and the multifamily component. And there is nothing like this in our city. There is no other mall we're decommissioning. I totally understand that this is a atypical opportunity here and an opportunity that the city is very vested in getting right. And I think that we're not, it's not our role up here to figure out what's economically viable for New York Life. That's not our role. Our role is to look at the development, and understanding what we know as far as our city's goals and objectives is to see how this aligns with those goals and objectives. And in our last meeting, you heard a lot, or Weston heard a lot from us about the lack of balance. And it's not that it's that the balance is off on the residential, it is the component of the residential. And I am a believer in having a mix of for sale and for rent. And I think you can look at our city and look at, we have probably at least 10 mixed-use developments. Not all 10 have for rent, as you were saying earlier with your projects. Half of our mixed-use developments here are for sale only. Recent ones, the one that was approved recently, which I think is called the Mix or Morrison Parkway, whatever, it's all single family and townhomes. And there's a number of other highly successful projects that they're successful, and they are all for sale. I understand that with the decommissioning here and the investment that is being put forth to create what appears to be an organic environment, and one that it's seamless in regards to the old and the new mall. There's no doubt in my mind that Trademark is the right organization to tackle this project. I feel very confident that you have the wherewithal for that. But I'm still coming back to the fact that what's best for our city, short-term and long-term, is more of a balance of the residential and not something that is so heavily weighted on a multifamily component. I don't know what that looks like, what the right mix is, but I'm sharing my concerns right now in that it's so heavily weighted on that. And I think for developments to be successful, you want to have folks that are vested in it, that are not just a transient component, but they're vested in the community. And we've seen that work so well in so many of our other mixed-use developments. So I don't have the answer, but I do think that balance is the key. And I'm interested to hear from others as well as far as what their perspectives are.
Haven't heard anything from the left.
Well, to build on that then, having been a 30-year resident here in Alpharetta, that what Commissioner Richards said, I concur with that. And y'all have this amazing opportunity, and we appreciate, what you want to do here and to rebuild, because as I said earlier, and I'm not a shopper, but I haven't really been to the mall, other than maybe 2 or 3 times in the last 10 years. But I'm not a good barometer for that, because that's not my thing. But my wife, who is a shopper, she hasn't been there either. And when I talk to my neighbors about density, now we live in a neighborhood not that far from here, and so the density isn't really going to impact us directly. But when I think of the mall, just as a person living here, I think, instead of just putting a lot of apartments, which I know is an economic component, but it's when you have people actually living there, because if you're talking about 36 for sale, 3 people there, a little over 100 people, that's sort of a community. But when you really build a community, it's like you have this almost borderline clean slate of a property, borderline there, to go back in and say, we're going to reimagine this. And we do hear from people in the city, and it within the parameters of the guidelines of the city. And so when I think about this, I think it's a great start, but I do agree with the emphasis on the balance of, for rent, for sale, having a real, true home for people instead of 100 people, maybe, I don't know what that number is, but maybe more than what you're looking at here.
Yes, can you slide back to the slide with all the different developments that you did some research on? Is that on there or not? That's fine if it's not. No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So I really appreciated that. And I know that was a lot of homework on your part, but I think it gave us a really good perspective of what's going on in the country and everything that's coming down. We've seen some articles in the last week that were very interesting to read. And I'm proud to say about half of those I've been to, but they're not Alpharetta. And I understand that we're not always apples to apples, but I think our community has strived to find those balances in the mixed use that doesn't have a rental component. Wildly successful. And I'm not saying that is at all what I think this should be. I absolutely think this is the right place for our city to have a rental component. I think it's the right area, and I do think it will be, and I love the word catalyst. You could brand the whole thing catalyst as far as I'm concerned. But we're not there with only 36 in my mind. So I love it. I want to see it. I want to see the inside of that mall redone. I want to be able to come back and enjoy the mall. I haven't been there since I used to ride the Ferris wheel, the merry-go-round that apparently is going away. But, I think you're there. And I know it's a hard thing to sharpen the pencil, but 36 is just, it's a struggle. I don't see that balance being there for what the residents of Alpharetta are looking for.
Let me say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just curious, big picture. If you do not get the motion to approve, what are the next steps to approve the 900? What are the next steps from a trademark perspective?
You mean from council?
Yeah, from here or council, or both.
Well, I don't mind, it's possible because of y'all's charge being different than council's charge. It could be that the right thing to do is for you to vote one way and for them to vote the other. That's quite possible. Because we're all being straight up with each other. That is, I'm not positive if I was in your shoes which way I'd vote. I'm positive if I was in the council's shoes which way I'd vote. Being completely transparent. So what happens? I think the odds that this thing, I mentioned the balance, trying to find something that actually gets done. What I don't want to happen here is Brookfield got a plan approved with 300 units and leaving a bunch of the mall, and they're gone. And we talked about today distressed malls around the country in all kinds of locations. Unless they attract new capital. That's one of the hardest things in the country to do, is attract new capital to redo a mall. Why is that, Terry? No matter what the site, because it's so expensive. There's $50 million that has to be spent just to start the development in demo and utilities. That's a lot of money. Then you spend another 15 to 25 or 30 on the interior of the mall if you include all the renovation and all the tenant improvement allowance and all the stuff you got to give the tenants to fill it up. And that's before you've built and to build all those little buildings is super expensive. To build those public spaces is super expensive. So I don't know. I can tell you this. I will tell you this. I know the numbers. I know where they sit. And this isn't like, hey, we're going for 900, hoping we get 600 and we're good. You know what construction prices have done the last 18 months since we started looking at this? Up. Some commodities up 200%, 100%. Construction prices on this went up versus our last estimate less than a year ago went up $100 million. No kidding. So I don't know what happens.
Let me suggest.
And that's not a threat. I'm
we are
being transparent. I'm being super transparent. If these other mixed-use places, I can assure you they don't have $50 million of infrastructure and demo before they build condos and townhomes and single family. That's an extraordinary issue to deal with. It's an extraordinary issue to deal with.
I want to move forward past this because we still have a public forum to listen to. Just want to make a couple of points. There have been a lot of very good points made by the applicant and also the commissioners that are very, very important. This is a very complex project. It is not easy to come up with the numbers on the fly on this one. As I think has been mentioned, there is so much going on in our society today that it's very hard to predict what's going to happen a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, 6 years from now. And it seems like people's behavior are changing. And I do appreciate the effort you put into this. And of course, we always need to be students of the past, of history, and also do forecasting, anticipating what's going to happen, and then come up with the best product we can. What I'm going to encourage the board to do today is once we hear from the public, and I'm not in any way trying to restrict debate and discussion here, but we are starting to repeat ourselves at this point, is to make a recommendation to council, whichever way, whether you want to make a recommendation in terms of the type of mix, based on what you believe in your heart, and then we are facilitating the public process. The applicant will have time between now and when you go before council if you want to make additional changes, and we're going to recommend things to you that you can do between now and then. But in order to facilitate moving forward from this point, I'd like to wrap up the questioning of the applicant at this time, and then have the public input. And if you have any additional questions during the discussion, you can definitely do that. And I think I mentioned to Ms. Cook is if you want to spend the whole night here, I am perfectly ready to do that. This is an important project, and we need to exercise due diligence, but at the same time, we need to recognize how complex this is. Everybody who spoke, I don't know what that number is. That is true. So, unless you have a pressing question, I'd like to ask you to wrap up, and then we'll open up for public comment.
Great. No further comments from our
No
side.
further comments?
Very much.
All right.
One comment is I appreciate how complicated this decision is, and appreciate you guys serving your community.
Thank you. I'm going to open the meeting for public comment. Anyone who would like to speak in favor, please come forward. And don't shy away from coming and expressing your views.
Mr. Chairman, I have one public comment. Sean Lavrance, 7,000 North Point Circle.
Okay. How many do you have on your list? Sorry. Please state your name and address for the record.
Absolutely.
Oh, you have that information already. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Sean Lawrence, and I am the general manager at the Dillards in North Point Mall. I've come this evening to express my personal support for this plan, and also for Trademark and those that I've worked with alongside at Trademark. Over the past 3 years, at the beginning of 2020, I moved to Alpharetta, and I've seen this area and the mall improve drastically. From when I first arrived, all the things that they listed in their presentation, landscaping, signage, everything that they've worked hard for to help our community and our mall improve. They've done such a wonderful job. I've had the pleasure of working with Nick, the mall manager, and Chuck Steelman, Vice President of Experience for Trademark, as well as many others with Trademark on numerous events and projects. Every time I have a partnership with them, I've been very impressed with their level of execution, organization, and communication. Currently, Alpharetta, as you know, has an extremely high median income. Actually, it's one of the best in the state. It's wonderful, and that's not even mentioning Johns Creek, Roswell, Milton, and so on and so forth. This project, in my personal belief, is that it satisfies the needs and the wants of this community. As being a young professional in the community with a young family of 3 under 4, this project would be a dream for me and my family to live and exist in. And again, I just believe that it's tailored perfectly to everything that this area needs and can complement everything that the area has already with examples of like the Halcyon and Avalon. Currently, I've been looking at other mall redevelopment plans. There's been a lot in the metro Atlanta area, as you know, Gwinnett, North DeKalb. And when you look at this plan, I think it's the most comprehensive and best to serve the needs of the community in terms of everything that they have to offer in terms of future improvement. But again, I just wanted to express my support. I love Alpharetta. It's been great living here. And I'd love to see this continue to grow as a place for me and my family. But again, I appreciate everyone's time this evening. And as a proud member of this community, I just hope that everything moves forward smoothly so that our community can continue to thrive and prosper together. Thank you all.
Did you say 3 under 4?
Yeah, I have a 4-year-old. I have 3 under 4, so I have a 4-year-old. He'll be 5 in December. I have a daughter who just turned 2 last month and a son who will actually be 1 next week. It's all my wife's fault. I had nothing to do with it. You know, but we moved here from Noonan on the south side of the city to Alpharetta, and it's been wonderful. It's a great area. We love it here. You know, we moved right at the beginning of the pandemic. So we kind of like moved in, everything shut down, and venturing back out post-COVID. We just love it, and we really think that this is a place where we're going to be able to make a home for our family. I'm actually not even originally from Georgia. I'm from South Texas. Never thought I'd leave Texas, but I found a home in Georgia, I think. So
Cooler here.
love it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
That's why he's here with us tonight, Mr. Chairman, because he is a 3 under 4. He's here with us.
Of course, yeah.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. You have another one? Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor? Please come forward. Please state your name and address.
Hello, I am Grace Murphy, and I'm with Fur Kids Animal Rescue and Shelters. So we're at 5235 Union Hill Road. And of course, we find loving homes for cats and dogs, and sometimes bunnies and other things. And so we have been really in this area for 20 years. And we don't get any government funding. We rely solely on individuals and foundations and our corporate partners. And so this all ensures that we can carry out our mission and help the community find the furry pets and friends. So securing this community partnership with North Point has been very important for us. We've done a lot of events with them, and most recently we did the Dog Days of Summer with them. This was a hugely successful event and mutually beneficial event for all of us. We were able to secure homes for over 20 of our dogs, a lot of them long-term that were just sitting in the shelter. So we were able to get in front of a totally different demographic for us, which was huge. And we just are super grateful for that, and we really would love to see this move forward to continue our partnership and just make sure that we have this not only financial, but this partnership to be able to use the property and get in front of a different group of folks for our animals. It's a very sad climate right now. We are getting 40 to 50 calls a day from people surrendering their animals. So this partnership is huge for us and very needed. So we're thankful and we're looking forward to the future. And if you need a furry friend, come see us.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm Nancy Flaherty. I've been a resident of Alpharetta for the past 22 years. I know some of you, I've shopped with your wife. But I remember North Point Mall when we first moved here as a place to bring my kids for back-to-school shopping. My youngest daughter, who's now 25, went to see Avril Lavigne at North Point Mall, and that's probably the crowdest we've ever seen that mall ever. So if you can just imagine, I don't know, North Point Mall with a bunch of screaming teenagers to see a rock star. Those were the days, right? I'm here tonight to support Trademark. My current position is the Regional Director for Fashion Group International. It's a networking community for people in the fashion industry. I've spoken with people at Dillard's, at Macy's. Our focus is to support local retail communities and retailers and designers. And we've been working with Trademark to help them facilitate fashion events at the mall. And I could just see when we were shown the drawings of what it's going to look like, that outdoor space, some great fashion shows. I know there's a couple that happen at Avalon right now, and I'd love to see that happen in that North Point Mall space that's so dear to me. I currently, my position is a fashion journalist. I take people on shopping trips to different locales. I do one here in downtown Alpharetta, and I can again see something like that happening at the new space at North Point Mall. I'm also a guest editor for the Alpharetta City Lifestyle magazine, this particular upcoming September issue, and I'm in the throes right now of final edits for the magazine, writing about shopping and fashion in the city of Alpharetta. And even though I've been a resident for 22 years, I'm still finding new places. So there's so much opportunity for more here in our city. I feel that with the vision of Trademark, North Point Mall will indeed become a fashionable destination for our community to linger longer. So I hope you take that into consideration when you make your decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Brenda Peterson, 17-year resident of Alpharetta. My address 10345 DeShiel Court in Alpharetta. My husband and 2 kids have been here. We love Alpharetta. What I do, I have a social local group called Alpharetta Housewives. We're a couple hundred members in, yes, not with Bravo, not with the Housewives of Atlanta. It's completely different. What I do is I collaborate with several businesses within Alpharetta right now. I'm about 50 businesses that I've collaborated with. My major partner is with Trademark and North Point. I've done tons of things with them. They've done fashion shows, which I've brought tons of women out to. We've met Bernice King and did a meet and greet and a book signing with her. Tons of, just lots of things that's going on at North Point. So I'm standing here firm in support of Trademark and New York Life, and I just wanted to just speak for just a moment and just let you guys know that Alpharetta residents are in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
David Silver. I live off of Maple Lane, and I've been a resident proudly of Alpharetta for 2 years. From Sandy Springs for 4 years, and I'm originally from Indiana. Indiana is a small community and just good old-fashioned people, and that's one of the things that drew us towards being in Alpharetta. 2 years ago, we could afford to buy a home here. Today, we would not be able to. If we were to want to be in Alpharetta today, young working professionals, we'd be looking at the rental market scene, such as Trademark is proposing. I've never met the folks of Trademark. I'm the general manager of Halcyon on Exit 12. And to put some perspective, we are approximately 600 rental units when we're fully developed on 43 acres. And what they are proposing is actually less dense than that for some visual aid there. I admire what I've seen today. What they've shown us is what managers like me that manage these types of centers dream of in that partnership. I would urge you to look up Mid-City District, I believe it's called, in Huntsville, Alabama. They have a lot of artwork and murals such as they're proposing, which are great PR and community building settings. And I think that for my age group coming to places like Alpharetta, I disagree that this is not what Alpharetta wants. Maybe not those that can afford what the community is today as far as homes for purchase only, but as far as rentals, there's a lot of great working class people that don't want to mow a yard, that don't necessarily have children yet, that would love to rent and would love to interact with a center like this. I see that every day where I am at Halcyon. But they are 97 to 99% leased regularly. And going into it, I was initially concerned, but they're some of the greatest people I've ever met. I interact with them daily. They've got their dogs. I know their dogs as well as I know the individuals. And I think that we need to look at the fact that they are, in fact, creating a community. And it might not be the community that you see as Alpharetta as a whole, but it is a community. And it's what we represent. It's what I've grown to love in Alpharetta. And Mr. Brady, I respect the fact that their financial situation may not be your concern, but I do think that you need to look at it because your concern is North Point Mall, and we all want to see it become what it can be. I've seen it where the mixed use, I totally understand. Mr. Terry's speaking my language. Without the multifamily, they can't move the needle unless somebody's sitting on a bunch of cash, which doesn't exist in today's market. They can't, and we can all sit back and watch North Point just be what it is, where folks like Mr. Perkins goes there 2 to 3 times over the past, 10 years? Or we can see it become something great and wonderful, just like Avalon is. Just like City Center is. That's why most people love Alpharetta. And that side of Georgia 400 matters as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Somebody from the back.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Catherine Dillon. I manage Lolly and Pops at North Point Mall. I am actually a resident of Atlanta proper. I grew up at Lenox Mall and Phipps Plaza and Perimeter. But the reason that I continue to come up to North Point and to work there is because it is actually a much safer environment than either of those 3 malls. At North Point, I don't worry that I'm going to potentially get shot while I'm out doing my shopping. I don't worry that somebody might try and stab me. And that is something that is unique to North Point and to the Alpharetta as a city. So I do really hope that you continue to move this project forward and do go forward with the construction. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. She mentioned something very important about public safety in our city, and we applaud our public safety officials. They do a great job here. Anyone else? Seeing none, anyone, I'd like to ask those in opposition to come forward. Anyone in opposition to this application? None in opposition. Thank you for those commented. I am going to close public comments, and then I would ask the applicant. We always provide time for rebuttal. There has not been any negative opposition, but I would ask you if you have anything else to add before I turn this over to the board for consideration and our motion. No comments. All right, I turn this over to the board for discussion and or a motion. Let me just start us off while you think what you're going to say, and just express my appreciation once again for the time everybody has put into this. This is not an easy project, and there's been a lot of investment of time that has not been recovered or rewarded yet, and there'll be still more time to be spent on this before even you break ground. And one of the things about a development of a mall, or any property for that matter, is that you have to spend a lot of money to even get to where you can start construction. And I think I had a number like $50 million, and it's a huge investment. So we truly believe you invested here. And as I mentioned during the last meeting, I don't see opposition to this development. This is we want to make this project happen, and we want to get the best product we can for the city of Alpharetta. One of the things we have said in the city quite often is about, we don't want to have a lot of for rent units. And I'm going to ask Ms. Cook here in a moment if you can give us the ratio for rent versus single family, single owner occupied and townhomes, if you have those numbers with you. But the one of the things we consider when we do this is how is it going to affect public services, how is it going to affect public safety, and it's better to have probably a concentration of a mixed-use development that's scattered for rent units throughout the city. And this is a perfect place for that in terms of having a good mix of uses in one location. There are still people who want to live in houses, but several individuals want to work from home now. We are dealing with a lot of excess office space in a lot of places. And as I said earlier, the behavior of people is changing. Now, the big question is, what is the right mix? And mixed use is still relatively new. We used to have these big box malls all over the place. People just go out there and hang out. And I remember a statement made several years ago, where's the best place to meet a spouse? And somebody said, well, college, church, and the mall. Say, mall? Yeah, that's where most young people used to hang out. They don't do that anymore, but they will hang out at yeah, I thought that was funny. So, in any case, one of the things I like to do is if Ms. Cook, you have any numbers you can share with us on the various mixed-use developments we have done here in Alpharetta. If you have the numbers that we can consider as we move forward, that might be helpful to the board.
Do you mean the percentages of for sale to for rent of the other mixed use? It's from 10 to 20%. And the other, of course, we don't have another regional mall, anything similar to this, but the ones that we have developed, 10 to 20% is the for sale to rental. 10%
to 20% for sale, 90% for rent.
20% would be the highest in its city center, because it's a smaller number, 168 rentals, 40 for sale.
Okay, thank you. I think that's helpful. I'll stop here and let the other commissioners comment.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the applicant. Really, tonight was really wonderful talking to you guys, really kind of going through this, and I really, really appreciate your time. They're very thoughtful. The design's been thoughtful. In New York Life as an owner, we welcome your investment in this section, in this property. The community's been doing a lot of work we've talked about for years now, kind of around the LCI, around kind of what we saw as North Point as a mall. I think it was funny. I think a couple weekends ago, I saw Fast Times at Ridgemont High on the TV, and I started to watch it. And it brought me back to the 80s, right? The 80s when it was just the mall was happening, and the movie theater, all that was, everyone, all the young kids and everyone kind of got together. I'm like, look how it's changed. And it has changed, whether it's outdoor or indoor. The dynamics has changed. And first of all, the consumer still wants to spend money, and they still need to shop. It's just the experience they have has kind of changed, and kind of in the way they want to have that experience has changed. And I think North Point, in 92, I remember it being built. I remember being up here and cousins kind of developing the whole corridor is really kind of the linchpin of Alpharetta really kind of taking off. Right? This new, huge development was taking off and kind of seeing that. Unfortunately, for 30 years, we've had an owner, and to be dead honest about it, has not made a significant reinvestment into the mall. But we've seen all the competitors around here also doing it. We've seen Cumberland kind of do it, and Lenox, Perimeter, all of them have made significant investments to kind of change it. So I think that ties into tonight in our kind of conversation of how much we welcome an investment here into North Point, how much I think we'll all support it, and how I think from an owner's perspective, if I would kind of say, you have a trophy, you could absolutely have a huge trophy in your portfolio for what this is. From the core asset working through that phase one is that development of the mall and creating all the infrastructure kind of improvements and changing the experience. I think you'll be very well rewarded from this community to shop there and have a new experience and kind of what you would see. And then kind of add on to kind of phase two. So the phase three, that's the piece, right? That's the piece that I think we're kind of in a misalignment in this. And, I still haven't heard kind of the true connection of that, of if you had to go build 900 units today, you know, and make it a success. Here's the problem where I challenge that is, and here's where I'm just a little off on it, and I'm not kind of buying into it, is that parcel still has value. It still has value on a balance sheet, on any kind of economic model you kind of have. It's not going to be developed for 7 to 8 years from today, these 250 units that were in misalignment. It is not going to affect really the phase one and the core of this mall. It's not going to affect really the success of phase two. It is shelved for 6 to 7 to 8 years. That's the difficulty we're having tonight, is to coming into dropping this balance today at this decision. And that investment can be made later on. And I think any time we have partners in the community and send stakeholders in this, there's always multiple visits, right? There's also multiple kind of connections. I'd much prefer the applicant to come back at a later date and say, I really need them after we see the product, after we kind of have that trust defined in the success. And it's noticeable that only 40 acres of this property is currently being developed now, and we still kind of have this huge parking lot off to the left. There's more to happen on the site. There's a lot more in the long-range planning of this, that this whole envelope around the whole circular road could be something so incredible into the future, and I think we all absolutely believe it will, and that's the kind of the support of the applicant. I think the problem kind of, I guess what I was kind of voicing is just that imbalance of only 36, I don't think hadn't been explored enough, and I don't think it's enough to crater the project when it's something that's not going to happen from 8 years from now. So that's just my personal feelings and opinions that I've heard from others in the community, and I'll stop there and open it up to the other commissioners.
Yeah, just a quick couple comments. So I just want to thank Trademark, first off. Excellent work tonight. And then since the last Planning Commission meeting, I mean, everything that you guys put together, what I call everything that you're willing to do infrastructure-wise before Phase 1 and before Phase 2 COs for the multifamily, I mean, we literally couldn't ask for more than that. So that there was a concern that I know was shared with you that we didn't want a bunch of apartments to be built and then it be sold and then we're left with none of the mixed-use components. And you've obviously taken that objection off the table. But I got to admit, I'm struggling because long before tonight, you guys heard from multiple constituencies the pushback on the 900. And I do know you guys sharpened the pencil going back a year and a half, starting in the 1,200, 1,500 range and getting down to 900. But at the same time, I mean, you've heard that pushback, but then I'm also hearing Terry look us in the eye and say, look, you know, he's saying, look, you know, if the Phase 3 space is 3 acres, I can't build 250 for sale units on 3 acres, and we probably don't want you to do that. And Terry, maybe you can clarify my thought process, but there's a pickle here. We're in a pickle between, even if we wanted more for sale units, you can't fit them, I'm hearing, right, obviously on 3 acres. And so that obviously means the only path to that many for sale units is to take this plan that's had 150 updates in the last year and a half and completely redo it. That's what's going, those are the conflicts in my head if I try to knit them out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know as planning commissioners, you do have to appreciate that we deal with the markets we're in. If we were in Manhattan, it'd be a little different. We could build an 80-story thing that's got 900 units in it. But that's right. I mean, right now we're here in the highest density for sale product that will work in this market. And are we sure that 5 years from now there won't be demand for a higher density product? No, we're not. But New York Life has to make a decision based on today's market. That's our reality. And so 16 units an acre is the highest we're hearing anybody. They said 9 to 16. I said, make it 16.66, and that's 50, and that's 200 units less. And that is a very different economic situation when they're looking at making an investment. That is the reality. Again, y'all have a job, and maybe you can't consider that. And I want you to know, I don't feel any animosity towards any of y'all. It is what it is. We're in different. Our perspectives are different here, but that is absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, just, first of all, thank you, Trademark, for your presentation tonight. I was very impressed with it compared to where we were at our last meeting, and I really do appreciate your candor. This is a tough decision, but I listened to your guiding principles where you talked about wanting to create value, which I definitely think this is, making a difference, which this would be a huge impact to our community, best-in-class development. It's going to engage people. Obviously, you're building partnerships with our city and our citizens. And I think we have a similar vision. I think we're just so close. I just feel like that we're just not, I just feel like we need a little bit better balance, and that's where I feel like we might be a little bit off. But I do really think this is terrific development and a project that I would fully support if we could get the balance a little better.
I think the phrase I heard you, sorry, you can go ahead before me.
Okay, I wanted to see if I could ask Kathy one more question.
Yes.
Okay. So Kathy, in the markup that we have, basically that phase 3E, were the 286. So that number was derived from everything in that last phase, making that all for sale, and then the 36 townhomes.
That's correct.
So where I'm struggling with this is that building block as we see it today as for sale. Does that really make sense?
Well, and that's only because, I mean, when staff make us a recommendation, we can't go past 5 years for rental. So although they asked.
That's tied to that component, okay.
That's it. So we couldn't go past the 5 years, so we had to make a recommendation based upon what they could complete within that 5 years. Just going by the policies, I mean.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure that's tied to that.
Yes. What I was going to mention is that I had the mission of purpose statement is to be extraordinary stewards, enhance communities, and enrich lives. It was a good mission statement. I did some calculations, assuming the total number is 936. We had 3.8% for sale, 96.2 for rent. If you do 10% of 936, that's about 94 units for sale. And if you do 7%, you're at 66. If you do 15%, it's 140. Now, we do have a height restriction in Alpharetta, and I appreciate the fact that, you cannot go high in height. So we are trying to do a lot of things that may not fit exactly the mold of what we are used to seeing, because there is an economic component here. As much as we like to look at all other things, if the development is not economically viable, it's just a plan. And I've seen so many plans done, and they die because they cannot be constructed. So the decision we need to make here is, what we recommend to council based on what we believe, because a lot of these decisions are consensus-based. It's hard to come up with exact calculations when you're forecasting out 6 years from now. So any projection is wrong, is how badly off we are. So I encourage the board to come up with a recommendation of whatever nature that we can come up with, and definitely seek as much information as you need if you don't have it already, and then make a recommendation to council. But the numbers I just mentioned, just rough calculations on my phone.
I know we're struggling a little bit with this phase 3, And I know we got 3 acres there we're kind of talking about, but we do have more acreage on this whole envelope that, we're not considering, we haven't seen in the design. So this 3 acres we're talking about, we're not talking about the other 40 acres we have on the southern side of this property. That could come into play if we were looking at a design and wanted to incorporate some balance. I'm going to keep going back to it. This is something 8 years from now. There could be other iterations in this. It's not affecting the phase 1 and the phase 2. I think staff spent a lot of time with this, going through this back and forth to kind of present kind of recommendations tonight that we could push forward to City Council. And I want to applaud staff also going through that, because you put a lot of work into this. This isn't just months, this is years, to get to right now at this point, this presentation, this recommendation, to kind of go through that. And with that, I'm going to fully support staff in their recommendations. And so I would like to make a motion to approve MP-22-03/Z-22-05/CU-22-02/V-22-07 North Point Mall Redevelopment, New York Life, based upon all staff recommendations as presented, with a couple of differences. I think we were asked by Kathy on, and Kathy, correct me if I'm right, 3D to add at the end of that as depicted in Exhibit H. And in number 9, to tie that at the end is, shall be tied to Phase 2 CO. And all other recommendations stand as presented.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly seconded. Does everybody understand what the motion is? Any further discussions? Hearing no discussion, so in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Council makes the final decision, but the recommendation is for approval as presented and as amended by staff. Again, thank you very much. We look forward to the next steps or path forward. This is going to shape the nature and character of this city for future generations, and I can't emphasize enough how much we appreciate all the work that everybody has done to get to this point. And is there anything else for discussion by the board? Hearing none,